This is for my ancestors, Mom, Dad, grandmas and grandpas and beyond. It is from their sacrifices that I am here today, living a life I still dream about and love. But I am not of the past. I am of the future. I see art in experiences. I then abstract these experiences in a medium that communicates the experience best. Some call me a polymath, others a philosopher. I have been advertised as a singer, a poet, a nonfiction writer, a composer, a radical. I am most known as an artist. I am Vicki Milewski, an abstract experientialist. Abstract experientialism is a genre of art I have coined to explain how experience is abstracted into each artwork I create. Future experiences are what my art provides. I work on pieces knowing that they are not of the past. They are of the future. My work exposes reality for what it is. An experience we all share in making. Experiences of love, freedom, truth, and community are mixed into my work. I paint, draw, construct, compose, write, and perform. I make short films and create installations. My work involves love found in freedom, compassion found in action, and joy is a way of life. My curiosity drives discovery and questioning to create art, embracing human experiences as inspiration for the future.
Hi, I'm Vicki Milewski, Abstract Experientialist artist, and I'm going to talk to you now about my poppy collection. The poppy is Poland's national flower, and as a Polish American, I love poppies. I have planted them and drawn them my whole life, and I love making poppies, sometimes with the veterans, and it's something that is nice to show your respect and your thankfulness for the service that they've offered. Most of the time, the national flower of Poland is seen as a red poppy, and the poppies that you see behind me are definitely not red. But when I first encountered them, they were red, and I immediately thought that it would be a wonderful collection, and I started calling it my Polish poppy collection. But as they started to age and still bloom so wonderfully, they changed in color and became this luminous orange that you see here. I think there might be a symbolism here, not only about Poland, but about being a Polish American, and how sometimes things have to merge and shift and change so that you can acquire your full identity. The first poppy that you'll see is the poppy that is at After Rain, and it's called Poppy After Rain. It's 14 by 18 inches. It's oil painting on canvas with some watercolor. And the oil painting you'll see in the vibrant poppy. The watercolor you'll see in the stem and in the sky. And then a little bit of pencil makes up the grass. It's in a 16 by 20 frame with a maroon mat board. You'll notice that the three drawings that are behind me all have a different color mat board. And I urge you to look into mat boards as you're looking into your art and framing it, because a different color mat board will change how a picture looks. I chose a maroon mat board for this one because I thought it would help accentuate some of the darker rust-colored oranges that this poppy had as it was slowly drying after a nice spring storm. This poppy here is Poppy at Dusk, and it has this wonderful green mat board, which to me accentuates the green leaves that are behind the poppy. It was the green leaves that caused me to experience this poppy. And as an abstract experientialist, I try to abstract my experiences so that I can push abstract art into the future and see what else that it might be able to show us. I take my experiences, I abstract them, and I hope to share these abstracted experiences with others. And so not only can they see or have an experience like mine, but bring their own personal experiences. Part of the abstraction process is so that people will be able to have a personal experience with a piece of artwork, an experience that stands separate and alone from the experience that inspired the artwork. This is also a 14 by 18 inch piece of paper with oil, watercolor, and pencil. It's in a 16 by 20 frame with, again, the green mat board. And you'll see that as the spirals go deeper and deeper into the center where the pistils and stamens are with the pollen that helps to keep these poppies growing each year, it gets darker and darker as you get towards the center. The leaves are all kind of a dusk colored, and they're definitely not the same color because as the dusk was setting that night, it was brilliant in the sky, and the poppy mirrored the brilliance. The third one, that's 14 by 18, are 3 poppies that are at night. I call it poppies at night. Sometimes it's called 3 witnesses because I feel that I am an artist who is a witness. I witness things that are happening in the human experience, and then I abstract those witnessings, and I try to make a piece of art that will speak to someone on another level, in another reality, or just with plain joy of color. These 3 poppies all show a progression of the life of a poppy. The first one shows when the poppy is wide open. The second one shows when the poppy is almost ready to fold and die, and the last one shows when the poppy is almost ready to open. I didn't do a chronological progression. I did a progression as I saw 3 poppies in these 3 different states, and I thought it would be really nice to show how 3 poppies in 3 different growth stages are all growing together. This is oil paints and watercolor on paper, and there's a star up in the sky, the first evening star, and that night it happened to be Venus. There's also pencil and of course the waterway that's up here. This blue mat in a 16 by 20 frame really accentuates that blue waterway and helps to bring home the idea that it is nighttime. The reason it's so light colored in the background though is because it was a full moon night and it's showing on those orange poppies. I'm kind of where the moon might have been except up in the sky, and it made everything just luminous with the poppies while it washed out the background. Up above you'll see an abstracted poppy. It's the center of the poppy near where the edge of the petal is. Each petal grows from the poppy, and so there are edges near the center. And for these poppies, for the most part, they can be quite yellow. This is an abstraction that is not only oil paint, but it is also watercolor. I like to mix medias sometimes in order to produce a different effect. It's a 16 by 20 canvas, and it's a linen canvas with Gamblin oil paints and Gamblin watercolors. Watercolors often are thought of as we used to use them in grade school on a palette, but most artists use watercolors that are in a tube. They're very similar to oil paints or acrylic paints, except they're very expensive. Not only are they much healthier than the oil paints, but they also can produce a really wonderful luminosity. The oil paint is behind and the watercolor, or the oil paint is behind and the watercolor is on the top. You'll notice the lines that are in this painting. Those are the veins of each petal that I was showing. And I call this Rain Poppies. Rain is spelled R-E-I-G-N. And it's part of a very large series that I've been doing about how I had to come to an understanding that I was done teaching high school. This happened when I was leading a Sierra Club Sierra Club hiking trip in the Sierra Nevada mountains. We were supposed to be hiking for 10 days. We actually hiked for 11 because the first 5 days was torrential rain. We were completely soaked and sodden, but as any hiker knows, you sometimes cannot plan the weather, and we kept hiking. We were rewarded with some wonderful scenery after the rain. The skies were so clear and the air was so good quality that we decided to stay out one more day. These poppies are not really about that hike, but they are about the whole process that I went through that was started during that hike. On that hike, I realized that I could no longer teach high school, that I wanted to devote myself full time to being an artist. And it's a very scary proposition for someone who's used to getting a paycheck and used to a routine to set off into a lifestyle that is a little bit different. I still have routines. I work 10 to 12 hours a day on my art. I do all kinds of other things like lecturing and a video like this, but it's also something that you have to build. It's not something that's given to you. Being a high school teacher was similar in that I had to learn how to teach. I had to learn how to plan. I had to learn how to reach students that weren't quite interested in possibly being in school. But being an artist is a lot different. This picture was inspired by a road trip that I had when I was in Wisconsin, and I was driving towards where these poppies were blooming. It started to rain, and it was just like the rain that we had in the Sierra Nevada mountains, only this time I was on an interstate, and it started to rain so hard everyone had to get off the interstate because we could no longer see the curving road. When we realized that where we had turned off was too low and was starting to fill up with water, we had to struggle to get back onto the interstate, and then we followed each other slowly, single file. This went on for about 40 minutes until the storm finally broke. And as I was gripping the steering wheel, I was trying to think of something that might calm me. And what came to me were these poppies. And I could see the poppies out my windshield waiting for me. And I knew they would be there when I got there, and I knew then that I would arrive safely. This is a 72-inch by 36-inch piece of paper. It's primarily dyes and inks, but the poppies themselves also have paint. You'll see some of the metallic dyes in the center that I like to choose to heighten certain parts of the poppies. Up above is the storm that is starting to give way to the sun, and of course the setting sun, and the green is the hills that we were driving over as I was trying to get through that rainstorm. The next poppy is Poppy at Dawn, and this is another part of my abstract experientialism. It's one of the first poppies that I drew after they had turned orange. I was a little disappointed after they went from red to orange, but I knew that there was a reason and that I had to keep painting and drawing them because they still called to me. This one in particular was so energetic and it had such an electricity that I just couldn't not draw it. And so I was very happy when I finished it, and then it led to a much larger collection. This is Watercolor and Oil on paper, and it is 17 by 11. I also like to include things when I have exhibits of my art that speak to the inspiration or to the pieces. This is a wonderful piece of pottery that's made by a very famous Polish pottery artist by the name of Makuro Krsono. And it is wonderful how she used the orange and the green, just like my poppies, and instead of making the green pieces the orange, instead of making these circles orange, she made them green. And these circles were reminiscent of a lot of the shapes that I found in the poppies. I think of the whole vase itself as a poppy. And I did call it pottery because she is a pottery artist, but this is blown glass, and it's very thick and heavy, and it's really quite wonderful. I am Vicki Milewski, an abstract experientialist, and I'm glad that you joined with me today to learn about my poppy collection. I'm honored to be doing these videos for the Chicago Public Library's Polish American Heritage Month. I hope you have a nice day.